So today I'm going to walk you through how to set up recording electric guitar inside of FL Studio with Native Instruments Guitar Rig. By the time we get done, you're going to feel confident and comfortable to be able to record electric guitar and record multiple parts for electric guitar so that you have really full sounding songs. I'm also going to be showing you some of my favorite tricks to keep the sounds interesting and also to avoid some of the issues that I run into a lot when I'm recording electric guitar. So make sure that you stick around to the end. Let's jump in. So the first thing that we're going to do is actually set up everything for the guitar. So we're going to take the electric guitar, we're going to take a 1/4 inch cable, and we're going to use an audio interface. So I'm going to plug in to the electric guitar, and I'm going to plug the second in into the second input of my audio interface. But the thing I'm going to make sure on my audio interface is that I have the small button that looks like an electric guitar, that I've pressed that in, and that's so that I get a little bit more gain out of the system. What that means is I'm just going to get a little bit of extra volume because the guitar comes in really, really low. So I'm going to use that button to be able to help boost up that volume a little bit as it comes into FL Studio. So now that we set everything up on the front end and plugged in our electric guitar into the audio interface in channel 2 and set up the button to give it a little bit of extra volume, we're going to come inside of FL Studio and set some things up to make sure that we are getting everything that we need so that we can get ready to start recording the guitar. So I'm going to pick a blank insert track. So you'll see I have a couple of different tracks that are here on this particular song that I'm working on. So I'm going to come over here to channel 21. So this is a track that I know that nothing else is going through. And so I'm going to set this one up to read the input from my audio interface to get the signal from the guitar. So I'm going to come over here to this right side in this drop down menu, and I'm going to pick input 2. I'm going to pick this one that is called the mono channel because I only have one cable plugged in. If I had two different things plugged in, say like a keyboard, and I had a left and a right, then I might choose this stereo pair up here. But since I'm only plugging in one cable into one thing, I just need to pick the mono. So I'm choosing channel 2. So now it's plugged in, and now what I can do is I can strum that and figure out where my levels are. And a lot of times I'll have to come in here and adjust the volume until I get something that's hitting about midway. So maybe a little bit less than that. So now I have this set up to get a good decent level, and now I need to load in Guitar Rig 5 in order to be able to use all the effects that I want to use to make my guitar sound the way that I want it to sound. So I'm going to come over here to slot 1, which is an effects slot on this channel 21. So I'm making sure that I'm still on 21, and then I am selecting on slot 1 and dropping down and loading in the Guitar Rig plugin. And for me, I'm using Guitar Rig 5 because I haven't upgraded complete yet, so I don't have Guitar Rig 6. So if you have the newer version, this might look a little bit different, but you'll get the basic idea of what you can do with this plugin. So when I came in, I had a preset that was already loaded up. You can unload the preset or get rid of it by pressing that X. And usually I recommend that everybody just start with presets because that's one of the easiest ways to get started. It'll help you get going. It'll help you find things that you really like. So I would come under here to styles, and that means what style of song are you playing. So let's say that we're playing a blues style guitar part. So I would come in here to styles and blues, and then I would go here under these presets and I would sample through some of these till I found one that I liked. And once I load one of these settings up, I'm probably going to have to go back and adjust my gain on the actual channel because it's going to come in a little bit louder now. So let's go ahead and load up this one, which is a pretty complicated one. So let's try a little different one. Okay, so this is a pretty simple one. So in this one, this preset is called Jimmy's or Little Jimmy's Wing. It has a hot plex amp in it, a delay, and a studio reverb. And let's play it real quick and I'll listen to it and figure out what I like and I don't like out of this thing. All right, so that's coming in a lot louder. All right, so that's a decent sound, and maybe I want to try something a little bit different. All All right, so maybe I like that tone that I want to go with, something like this, which is the tight white rhythm. And you can adjust the sound of everything by using all these knobs and buttons that are there. So you can dial in this tone to be a little bit different. You can add in other plugins. So if you come over to this components section, there's a whole list of other things that you can add in here. So you could come under here and let's say we wanted to put a delay into this setup. I could grab one of these delays and then I could just drop it into this right side and it'll now have a delay sound in there. And I can adjust that a little bit to get maybe a sound that I like a little bit better. And for me, one of the problems that I come up against a lot is that my guitar is kind of noisy. So if I let go of the strings and I'm just sitting here, there's usually a lot of noise that's on that. So I usually come in here and grab one of these noise reduction, and that just gets rid of a lot of the noise on my guitar. So if you have a noisy guitar, maybe you want to try that too. It might help you out, and then you can adjust the threshold for when it cuts off or cuts on, and it'll help you get maybe a little bit of a cleaner sound. And then there's other things that you could add in, like distortion pedals or other EQs, or maybe even compressors if you want something like that. There's all kinds of other things. There's other kinds of reverbs that you could use. And let's say that you've modified this to get a sound that you like. So one of the things that you can do if you find a sound and you've modified it a little bit, you can save it as a preset. So you can come over here and say save as, and you could call this the tight white, but maybe just put your initials on it. And then I would look under the user preset menu and then save it into there. So that way, what happens is if you exit out of this and there's nothing in there anymore, if you come under user, you go to the bottom, you'll see that there's a new preset called Tight White JJ. And so I could double click on that and it's gonna load that preset up for me so that I can use it however I want to. All right, so now that you've seen how to actually use some of the presets and then tweak those and save your own presets, let's start with building a setting from scratch. So I'm gonna come over here, I'm gonna X out of this to give a complete blank slate. And then what I'm gonna do is come over to this component side, and there's different, what they call categories of the components. So there's amplifiers and cabinets and delays and distortion, dynamics, and all other kinds of things. So usually what I'll do is I'll come in here and I'll decide on an amplifier style that I want to use for the song. So let's say I want to use an AC style amplifier, which is a Vox style amplifier. It's a classic amp. And then maybe I want to bring in a distortion pedal. So let's say I want to get something that's like the Tube Screamer. So I might put that in up front. And then I might come here to some delays. I might grab this tape echo. And then I might also grab a reverb down here. So I'll grab this little reflector. And I like to set my chain up the same way that I would if I was playing live. So like having a pedal board that's going into an amplifier. But one of the cool things that you can do with Guitar Rig that I couldn't do because I couldn't afford it, but was to set up multiple amps or multiple setups, to split the setup into two different amp styles and be able to pan those left and right. So let's say that I wanted an AC style amp on the left side, but then maybe I wanted more of like a Fender style amp on the right side. So I could come in here to these tools that are down at the bottom, and it has this thing that's called the split. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set this split in between all the effects that I have and then the amplifiers. So right now, I'm going to stick this amplifier and the cabinet under here, under split A, and then let's say I'm gonna grab another amplifier and I'm gonna make this one a, let's call it the Twang Reverb. I'm gonna put that under split B. So now I have an AC style amp and under split A and a Twang Reverb amp on split B. So what I can do is actually take split A and I can pan that over towards the left side, and then I could take split B and I could pan that over to the right side. So now I have this stereo version of the sound that I've created that's running through two different amplifiers, and it's gonna sound a lot more stereo. So let me show you, let me throw some headphones on, grab my guitar, and show you what this sounds like. So that left side sounds a lot louder. So I'm gonna take that volume down. And then I'm also going to put in a modifier here for the dynamics. I'm going to put in a noise reducer. Oops, I didn't mean to take away the distortion. Put that back in. But you can see how much that cleans up the sound. All right, so let's say that is a track that I want to record. So now I've set up this preset. Let's go ahead and save that one again. And I'm going to save this one as the split amp. I'm going to put that under user. I'm going to push save on that one. So now I have this setting saved. And now I'm ready to start actually recording something. So this record button is ready to go. And all I have to do is pick the place in here that I want to start. So I want to start over here. Whoops. So I'm going to use right here to start out. All right, so let's go ahead and record something real quick. So I'm going to keep my metronome on. I'm going to go ahead and do this. So I just recorded that track, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here where I just recorded that. I'm going to pan one of these all the way left, and then what I'll usually come back and do is record a second pass, but this time I'm going to maybe change the tone a little bit. So maybe I want more of the twang reverb one, a whole lot less of the AC, and I'm going to maybe adjust the bass up a little bit and take the treble down on this one, take the bass down a little bit. So it's more on that other side. I might turn it a little more wet on the reverb. Okay, so now I have a little bit of a different tone because I tweaked the sound a little bit. And then I'll come back in and I'll basically record the same thing again. So I'm gonna come back out here, and all I have to do is press spacebar because I already have it set up and armed to record. So I'm gonna press that again. So that came in really loud on that left side. So I want to come back in and maybe turn these down a heck of a lot. And then I'm going to pan that other one right. And this is a lot of times what I'll do if I want to create a wider sound for guitars is I will record one and then I'll record a second one and I'll pan them pretty wide so that I get a much more stereo sounding thing. It might sound a little bit wonky because we already set up a stereo sound with the amplifiers in the actual preset or the plugin that we were using, but this will give you an idea for things that you can do. So here's what that sounds like now. So it has a nice wide and kind of full sound. And then if I wanted to tweak things more, I could maybe put both of these into an insert track and then do some processing on it, like put some EQ on it or do something else along those lines. And so this is a way to just really start building out the track and building out the sound that you want for something that you're recording. And this is the workflow that I use a lot of times when I'm trying to record electric guitar using Guitar Rig inside of FL Studio. Well, I hope that was helpful for you to be able to find out how I go through the process of recording electric guitar inside of FL Studio using the Native Instruments Guitar Rig. I really like this product and I've used it for years and years and years. And this is the way that I actually create pretty much every one of my songs. So hopefully this was helpful for you, gave you some ideas, and got you started on how you could go about recording electric guitars for your songs. If you want to find out more of the basics of how to use FL Studio to put together an entire song, I created a 3-part series that you can sign up for in the description below that will walk you through all the basics of the windows that are a part of the program, how to do things like record your voice or record electric guitars like we covered today, or bass, or use something like a MIDI keyboard to map in drums or record other VST instruments as well. And this will give you the foundation that you need to be able to put together your own tracks inside of FL Studio. If you found this helpful, go ahead and subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you can get alerted when I post a new video, and I will see you in the next round.